What happens when one of basketball's absolute legends watches the most talked about player in the game with his own eyes? For almost a whole season, Shaquille O'Neal chose to stay completely out of the Caitlin Clark debate. While critics argued and fans clashed online, Clark kept shattering expectations and Shaq chose silence. Then came one game in Chicago, one courtside seat, and an unforgettable performance. What he witnessed that night sparked comparisons to Stephen Curry, sent waves of praise through the basketball world, and permanently shifted how people viewed her rising greatness. But why did Shaq wait so long to speak? What finally changed his mind, and what does the evidence prove? Let us uncover the story behind the silence before the verdict. One version of this story begins with Caitlin Clark, but the more honest truth actually starts with Shaquille O'Neal. Specifically, understanding why he kept completely silent about her for nearly the entire WNBA rookie season. Shaquille O'Neal needs no introduction to anyone who has ever watched a game. 4 NBA championships, Hall of Fame, and arguably the most dominant force the sport has ever seen. Shaq is a larger-than-life figure. When he has an opinion on something, he has never shown the slightest bit of hesitation to speak up and share it with the world. He has spent years as a television analyst dropping hard takes on players, coaches, and key moments across the game he loves. He is not a quiet guy by nature. Yet, when Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA in 2024 as the #1 draft pick, with the first pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, the Indiana Fever select Caitlin Clark. As arenas began selling out and television ratings started shattering all-time records, and when every basketball debate eventually circled back to the Indiana Fever rookie guard, Shaquille O'Neal remained conspicuously, almost stubbornly quiet on the whole subject. Why? The answer reveals everything about who Shaq is, making his ultimate reaction so much more powerful. Angel Reese is not just some player Shaq roots for from afar. In his own words, she is like a daughter to him, forged by their deep connection to LSU. That is Shaq's alma mater and Reese's college home, the exact place where they both built legacies they carry forever. When Reese turned pro and joined the Chicago Sky as the 7th overall pick in the 2024 draft,
with the 7th pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, the Chicago Sky select Angel Reese.
Shaq was always there. He helped launch her podcast and sat courtside at her games. He became one of the most visible figures in her corner, making absolutely no effort to hide his support. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese had been linked since that 2023 national championship match, Iowa versus LSU. They were two stars embodying totally different styles whose fierce rivalry captured the nation's imagination and pulled millions of new viewers into women's basketball. By the time they both reached the pros, their rivalry carried a heavy cultural weight that went way beyond standard box scores. It became a massive cultural flashpoint, a lens through which people debated women's sports, race, fame, and the future of the WNBA. For Shaq, praising Clark or placing her in any kind of hierarchy felt like a direct betrayal of the person he cared about most in this story, so he chose silence, he watched, he waited. While his inside the NBA colleague, Charles Barkley, grabbed headlines by calling out what he saw as pettiness toward Clark, Shaq decided to take a completely different path. He argued that the backlash Clark faced was just normal, understandable, professional jealousy. It is the exact same treatment any superstar gets when they step in and instantly command the spotlight. He was excited for her arrival in the WNBA, calling it great for women's basketball. He stayed nuanced where Barkley was blunt and remained careful where others were careless. But being careful does not mean being blind. Patience does not last forever. Shaq had not actually seen Clark play in person yet, and that makes a massive difference. Every real basketball mind knows the difference between watching a game on television and being in the arena when someone truly puts on a show. He was simply waiting for the right moment. That chance came on a warm evening in late August in a city he knew well, inside a building packed with people waiting to see history. There is a deeper side to Shaq's quiet approach. It showed a level of emotional maturity that the general public does not always associate with his massive, loud persona. Shaq built his entire reputation on sheer size, raw dominance, and loud presence. He naturally commands any room he enters. Yet, with Caitlin Clark, he showed a completely different side. The rare discipline to hold his tongue until he could speak from actual firsthand experience. Tons of people with zero basketball credibility had loud opinions about her from the very beginning. Shaq knew his voice carried weight precisely because he did not throw it around recklessly. So he waited. He kept his eyes on her from afar, saving his final judgment until he could witness her play honestly, live with his own eyes in the exact same building as the rookie everyone was talking about. The night everything changed was August 30th, 2024, at Chicago's Wintrust Arena. The Indiana Fever faced the Chicago Sky in their final matchup of the year, a showdown between two teams whose fierce rivalry had absolutely captivated the sports world. And sitting courtside, impossible to miss, was Shaquille O'Neal. He was there to support Angel Reese, and everyone knew it. He made absolutely no effort to hide his loyalty. He was there to lift up his rookie, celebrate her year, and show real support. But what happened next instead turned into one of the most defining and legendary moments of Caitlin Clark's entire debut season. Caitlin Clark went right at her opponent, making a statement. Still, the game started rough for Indiana as Chicago came out playing fast and physical. Lindsey Allen scored fast, giving the Sky an 11-point lead early in the first. At 21-9, the crowd was electric and Reese was in her zone. On paper, this seemed like the exact night that would prove all the doubters right. Then Indiana went on a 12-2 run to end the quarter, and Clark did exactly what she does when everything is on the line. Just classic Caitlin Clark, making plays off a simple pick and roll, driving or attacking the rim. By halftime, she racked up 15 points and 7 assists. Indiana shot 55% early on, but in the second half, Clark completely took over the game. She drained her 5th deep three-pointer late in the fourth quarter. Dropping assist after assist, she found open cutters, pushed the pace, and made plays before the defense could even react. 31 points, shooting 8 for 14, 5 of 9 from deep, 12 assists, her 11th double-double. Indiana won 100-81, with Clark chasing a triple-double, running fast, and launching perfect transition passes. These were not just empty stats. This was history. Clark became the only player in WNBA history with 3 games of 25 points and 10 assists in a single season. Across the court, Reese put up 10 points and 11 rebounds, continuing a strong run over her last few games. Reese went to the bench after scoring on Smith, securing the Chicago rookie record for double-doubles in a single season. She broke that record with 92 seconds remaining, long after Clark and the rest of the Indiana starters had checked out. That simple detail shows you exactly how one-sided the personal matchup was on this night. Shaq took it all in. He arrived to support someone he loved, but ended up transfixed by someone else. That is not a betrayal. It is how true basketball minds react when they see greatness, they recognize it, unable to look away. What makes 12 assists stand out more than those 31 points, or even her career high, is what they reveal about the way Clark thinks. Anyone can score 31 points on a hot night, but with 29 points, Clark takes a hit, setting a new career high with her 3rd 30-point game this season. It could be matchups or just luck, but 12 assists is different. 12 assists means a player is seeing the floor before the play even develops, processing the game at a speed few pros ever reach, and putting the ball precisely where it needs to go before the defense can react. Shaq played with Magic Johnson in Los Angeles late in Magic's career and won championships with superstars Kobe Bryant and Dwyane Wade. He is a guy who knows what it takes to win titles and bring pure joy to the city of Los Angeles. He knows those players understood that making others better separates the great from the elite. Shaq knows true basketball intelligence inside out. He had spent 30 years spotting greatness, and he saw it that night in Chicago, even though he came for a different reason. Instead, he left with something unexpected, the kind of raw, firsthand proof no television screen can show you. Caitlin Clark was the real deal, and now he knew it. The Steph Curry comparison turned heads. Talking to USA Today after the game, Shaquille O'Neal said something that the basketball world immediately knew was massive. He called Caitlin Clark the real deal, praising how she makes the right plays and gets everyone involved before comparing her shooting range directly to Steph Curry. Think about that comparison for a second. He did not compare her to a role player or a solid pro or even just a great player. He compared her to Steph Curry, the undisputed greatest shooter in the history of basketball. As a kid, Stephen Curry's idol was Reggie Miller. He loved Reggie's outside shooting and movement off the ball, taking inspiration from one of the best shooters ever. We are talking about the player who completely changed the modern game, forcing the entire sport to adapt to his style. When a four-time NBA champion, Hall of Famer, and one of the most respected minds on the planet compares a WNBA rookie directly to Stephen Curry, that is definitely not a casual remark. Shaq's words hit harder than usual celebrity praise because of the setting. He was not asked to share his thoughts on Clark during a standard interview. He was not sitting in a studio searching for a talking point. He was at the arena as a fan, rooting for another player, and what he witnessed forced him to speak out. This praise came from a legend who was right there watching with the sharp, trained eyes of someone who knows exactly what elite basketball talent looks like. He also made a point that was even more telling than the Curry comparison. He admitted he tried to find reasons to be mad watching Clark, but just could not do it. Think about what that means coming from him specifically. He had real personal reasons to want a different story since he is very close to the player. Clark is constantly compared to. Nobody would blame him for keeping his praise quiet and brief after watching her play a solid game. Instead, he felt a genuine, undeniable admiration, the reaction of a true basketball mind, witnessing something too good to ignore, no matter what his personal preferences might have been. And he did not stop there. He praised Clark for how she handles physical play, never complaining when opponents try to rattle her. She just takes the hits, keeps competing, and keeps her focus on the game. Clark was ready to step up and absorb that hard foul Angel got mad about. Remember, Angel initially pushed Natasha Howard, coming from a legend who dominated the most physical era in basketball history. This compliment carries real weight. Shaq knows actual toughness when he sees it. When he calls a player tough for taking hits and playing through them, it is the kind of respect you simply cannot buy or fake. It must be earned. Then came January 1st, 2025. Time magazine crowned Caitlin Clark their 2024 Athlete of the Year. Yes, she took the title. How is that for a wild 24 hours? An honor that sat her right next to the biggest icons in global sports. It proved to anyone who was still asleep that her narrative was no longer just about the game of basketball. This was a cultural phenomenon. It was pure sports history. During a live interview with TMZ, Shaq was asked for his take. His answer was just 7 words. 7 words of pure, undeniable praise that left absolutely no room for doubt. The legend who stayed quiet through most of the rookie season of Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark was now crowned WNBA Rookie of the Year. The giant who picked careful neutrality while everyone else argued and drew battle lines finally took a side. He watched her play, he saw her greatness, and made up his mind. That is what makes Shaq's shift so powerful for anyone following this saga. It was not overnight. It was not for show. It was the genuine reaction of a legend with elite standards watching a kid meet them right before his eyes. The league finally caught up, but there is a deeply uncomfortable truth here, one that makes this eventual victory taste so much sweeter. During her early run in the WNBA, the league itself did not quite realize the goldmine they had, even though the signs were blindingly obvious. From the moment she went #1 overall in April of 2024, women's basketball exploded in ways nobody had ever seen before. Stadiums that used to struggle to sell cheap seats were suddenly selling out weeks ahead of time. Resale ticket prices for the Fever spiked to heights completely unheard of for normal regular season games. TV ratings began surging to heights that networks never expected, could not predict, and simply could not explain with any logic other than the obvious truth. During her rookie run, she averaged 19.2 points, a league-leading 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds a game. She was the first rookie since Candace Parker in 2008 to make first-team All-WNBA while shattering the single-season assist record. And of course, absolute basketball legend Candace Parker decided to call it a career after 16 seasons in the WNBA. Clark carried the Fever to their first playoff berth since 2016, a massive franchise revival that seemed totally impossible just 2 years ago. She cleaned up, taking WNBA Rookie of the Year and Associated Press Female Athlete of the Year honors. This mirrored when the Associated Press honored Parker in 2021, culminating in Time magazine naming her Athlete of the Year for 2024. Yet, despite the records, the historic awards, and the massive viewership numbers rolling in like clockwork, the league's official response stayed strangely quiet. They put her on the back of posters when she belonged on the cover, leaving her out of campaigns where she was the obvious face of the sport. An organization experiencing an unprecedented golden age in basketball seemed outright hesitant to admit the exact reason why everyone was suddenly tuning in. The drama with Sheryl Swoopes highlighted this structural tension. Swoopes, an elite Hall of Famer and one of the most decorated players in women's basketball history, voiced heavy public criticism against Clark during the 2024 season. The public backlash was swift. Her passionate fan base, which had grown into one of the most dedicated and highly organized supporter groups in all of sports, turned her into a national icon, with fans willingly traveling massive distances just to watch her play live. The community retaliated. By the next season, Swoopes had quietly vanished from the league's TV broadcasts. While league officials avoided discussing the controversy publicly, it was a clear, undeniable sign of where the power in women's hoops now resided. When the adjustments finally came, they were massive. Ahead of the 2026 season, the WNBA pulled off a historic first. They ensured that every single one of the Indiana Fever's 44 regular season games would air on national television. Yes, all 44. No exceptions, no selective cuts, and no regional blackouts. Every single matchup. It was the absolute first time in WNBA history that a single team was granted complete national TV coverage. In February of 2026, Clark stood shoulder to shoulder with Hall of Famers Carmelo Anthony, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, and Reggie Miller, debuting as a special contributor on NBC's Basketball Night in America, the most prestigious pregame show in American sports, now featuring the woman who had become, in the words of the network's own chief producer, one of the most magnetic figures in all of basketball, regardless of gender. The brass had finally caught on to what Shaq realized in a single night in Chicago. The real question was whether the executives would adapt as fast as the fans did. The 2026 season offered a loud, clear answer. Fever fans, listen up closely, because every single one of the team's 44 games will air on national television this season. The day the old school agreed. There is a very rare kind of moment in sports that almost never happens. That instant when an icon from one generation looks at a newcomer from a different world and says, she is the one. That she is real. That she belongs. Shaq's path to recognizing Caitlin Clark was exactly one of those moments. But that moment did not come alone. It was part of something far bigger. LeBron James paved the way first, championing her publicly, repeatedly, and without hesitation. When Clark dropped the third triple-double of her WNBA career in May of 2025, dropping 20 points, WNBA sensation Caitlin Clark became the first rookie in history to lock down a triple-double. 10 rebounds and 10 assists in a 35-point blowout of the Chicago Sky. LeBron posted his reaction instantly. Clark called him the greatest of all time, saying his praise meant everything. But what turned their connection into more than just celebrity hype was how he reacted when Clark got injured. During the 2025 season, she missed significant time, playing only 13 games because of injuries. Clark collapses near midcourt, shockwaves hit the arena as fans fear the worst. Gregory is down too. LeBron reached out behind the scenes, offering to help in any way. Today, they text regularly and plan to hit the golf course. This is no PR stunt. It is a real bond built on knowing what it takes to carry an entire sport when critics still doubt you deserve the spotlight. LeBron spelled it out in an Esquire feature. He respects Clark because he understands the pressure of being the face of a franchise, picked apart by doubters who claim you are not ready and proving them wrong every single night without making excuses. When she returned in June of 2025, dropping 32 points on the New York Liberty, sinking 7 three-pointers, including 3 in 38 seconds, LeBron posted a simple message: the CC effect. Welcome back. That is real respect. No scripting, no pleading, just an icon watching a rising star and refusing to look away from greatness. Robert Horry was watching too. With 7 NBA championship rings, he has won more than almost anyone in basketball history. Basketball fans got a major treat at a local luncheon. Speaking about the game in May of 2026, the 7-time champion Horry kept praising Clark, urging her to play more aggressively on the court and showing everyone he was tracking her career with real interest. No cheap sound bites here. Just a hoops legend watching a young star and offering raw, honest feedback. That respect only comes from those who watch closely. Reggie Miller stood beside Clark on NBC's Basketball Night in America in February of 2026. Not to interview her as a side attraction, but as equal peers on the air. He treated her presence as totally natural and fully earned. What does it mean when so many icons reach this conclusion? No coordination, no PR campaign, it just means her game is doing all the talking. What Clark does on the court speaks directly to legends who spent their entire lives living and breathing elite basketball. Shaquille O'Neal's voice carried unique weight because he had personal ties to Angel Reese and LSU. He had every excuse to stay quiet on the sidelines, yet he simply could not ignore her. He sat courtside on August 30th, 2024, watched 31 points and 12 assists, and left unable to deny what he witnessed. Realizing that Caitlin Clark is absolutely everything the hype and stats say she is, Austin shouted to slow the pace and feed Clark. Then came a beautiful bounce pass to Clark, cutting along the baseline. One after another, the absolute legends of basketball are reaching the exact same conclusion. Shaquille O'Neal showed up to support Angel Reese, but left praising Caitlin Clark. No one forced him to. He simply witnessed her live and could not deny his own eyes. A 4-time NBA champion and Hall of Famer with every reason to remain neutral, yet her game was just too good to ignore. That is the true Caitlin Clark effect. No marketing stunts, no media hype, just pure talent doing what it does best. Turning the toughest skeptics into true believers. Let us know whose praise mattered most and subscribe because the next story is ready.